welcome to the Real Estate Corner. I'm your host, Shad Bogany. I'm here every Tuesday from 6:15 to 7:15 talking real estate. We do a show that tells you what's happening locally, statewide, and nationally in real estate. And tonight our show is going to be about homeowners insurance. My guest in the studio with me is TWFG Insurance Services. That's Dana Tucker. She's going to be here in the studio with us talking about homeowners insurance. If you have any questions, the numbers are 281-837-2222. My name is Shad Bogany. I'm here every Tuesday. I am a broker associate with Better Homes and Gardens, Gary Green, the #1 company in the city. This show is brought to you this week by American Title and my favorite Dixie Hardware, the Dixon family down on Cullen and OST. So guys, we're going to get right into our show. The numbers again are 281-837-2222. Well, Dana, you see what live TV and radio does. And so thank you for being here. You came in. I know it was flooding down in your neck of the woods, down in the Beaumont area because of the huge storm. And so I wanted to thank you for coming in and being here on the show. Tell us how about homeowners insurance from a standpoint. Is it important that we get insurance from a big box company, the State Farms, the Allstates of the world?
I think that's just a conception that has been around for a long time, and maybe it was more true back in the previous days, but nowadays there's so many options out there, and a lot of companies have ratings just as good as Allstate or State Farm or Farmers. They pay their claims just as well, and they're just as financially stable, but they may not spend as much money on advertising. So that doesn't mean they're not as good of a carrier. So you definitely have more options than you used to.
Well, one of the things I wanted to do tonight and talk about is that I pulled out the top 10 best and worst insurance companies about paying claims. And the reason I brought this up, because when I knew I was having Dana come do the show, and I wanted to just kind of reach out, because some of the people that's on this list, you're not going to believe. And this is why I want the public to know what's going on when it comes down to insurance. Most likely, and I'm going to give the best too, I'm going to be equal here, but most likely deny your claim, State Farm, Southern Vanguard, Republican Group, Columbia Lloyd's, National Lloyd's, Farmers and Foremost, Allstate, USA AA, AAA, and Germania. Now, they are the ones that are most likely not pay your claim. Now, let's move to most likely to pay your claim. Told you I was going to give equal time. Chubb, Amica, Centauri, ASI, UPC, Travelers, State Auto, Hartford, and Texas Farm Bureau and Nationwide. And how I met the Tuckers is that I was with Amica, who does pay claims, and I had my homeowners insurance with them. And I got a call from one of their reps asking me to at least come and talk to me about homeowners insurance. I'm okay. They treat me well. I'm good with Amica. And he was very persistent, and finally used that personal relationship to get in the door. And I said, okay, you can come in. The Tucker Group saved me $2,200 a year on my homeowners insurance. And matter of fact, I've never had a claim at my house. $2,200 in my homeowners insurance. It dropped my house note almost $200 a month. Then I had another client call me. I sent him over. She said, Shad, the quote was just unbelievable. No one's even coming close. And I said, yep, that's why I made that switch. And by the way, for those who think I got less insurance, I actually have a better policy than I had with Amica. So I wanted the Tuckers to come in and talk about the insurance company that they're working with and talk about insurance in general, because I want you to have the same savings that I had. The number here is 281-837-2222. My name is Shad Bogany. So, Ms. Tucker, I've laid out my list. I've told people why you're here, and you're an expert on insurance. So explain to me the difference of the different policies that are available out there in homeowners insurance. You got HOB, and then they got 1, 2, 3, 4, APT2, and all these, and they've made it kind of confusing. What's your take on the best policy that consumers should look at?
Well, that's one thing that you really, it helps a lot to have a good agent that understands insurance that can help walk you through that, because there are so many different options out there. A lot of times when you're shopping for insurance rates, you kind of just take your quotes and you look at the numbers and you compare them and you assume that they all cover the same thing, but they don't necessarily do that. A lot of people will write an HOA just to get you a better rate, but when it comes time to have a claim, that's where you're going to see the most denials from your carrier, because an HOA has a specific list of 7 types of losses, and if your loss doesn't fall into those 7 types, then it's denied. Then you go up to an HO3, which is what most companies write. It's the most common one. And that list expands. It goes up to about 11 different types of losses that it'll cover. And then an HO6 is going to be your best policy. It basically means if it doesn't specifically say it's excluded, then it's covered. And so you need an agent to help, outline this is an HOA, this is an HO3, and help you figure out which one fits you, what you need.
So whatever happened to the HOB policy? Has that been renamed too?
The HOB and the HO3 will kind of be called the same thing, just depending on what state you're in.
All righty. So what about the point of, if I'm looking for an insurance policy, then I should be looking for an HO?
At least an HOB/3.
3. Okay, those are the policies that I need to be looking for on that end. Now, is it a difference between a new home policy and a resale home policy?
You mean like a new purchase versus no?
Well, where the house has been built and is brand new is 2018, and then one that was built in 2000.
The policy itself will be the same type of policy, but you'll see a huge difference in the rate. Homeowners, for a new build home, they're a lot less of a risk for fire hazards and stuff like that, so you'll see a much lower rate for newly built homes.
Now, let me ask you this in regards to the policy itself, okay? Mold, is that covered in there? We had that big mold scare 10, 15 years ago. Sudden water damage, are those covered in those, or are those separate policies?
Sudden and accidental water damage will be covered by almost any homeowner's policy, but mold is almost never covered nowadays. Carriers just don't like it. You can add the coverage through an endorsement, but it's not very inexpensive.
So if I'm looking for quotes, what are some of the things that I should be asking insurance companies as I call them?
I would start off by maybe having a independent agent as a broker.
Okay. Why would I have an independent agent?
Because they're going to do a lot of the legwork for you. Instead of you as a consumer going through and trying to get quotes from Allstate and State Farm and Farmers and trying to understand the policy language and sort between it, you have an independent agent. They're going to be able to shop those carriers for you and help explain the differences between each policy.
Okay. The numbers here again are 281-837-2222. I'm here in the studio with Dana Tucker with TWFG Insurance Services, Tucker's Insurance. If you have a call, a question about insurance, don't hesitate to give us a call. Don't wait till the last minute to call us, and I'm not going to be able to get you on the air. Dana, let me ask you a question in regards to as you shop around, people don't realize that insurance policies go up. And what I've noticed, the price goes up and price goes up and coverage goes down.
Right.
Yeah, and so why should people be reviewing their homeowner's policy with you every year?
There's many reasons why they should be reviewing that every year. One of them is going to be that things change. So you may not have the same situation, like you might have decided to rent your home out to someone, or you may not be living in it while you're doing some repairs. You might have purchased new high value items like another wedding ring or something that needs to be updated. So you'll want to make sure your coverage is up to date each year. And then a lot of times you'll see people take homeowners as just kind of set it and forget it. They'll shop the rates when they are shopping for the home. And then they'll just kind of leave it alone and let it renew every year because it's built into their mortgage. But you can shop that every year. You want to make sure you've got the best coverage and you've got the best rate for that coverage. So I definitely recommend reviewing it every year when your renewal comes up.
Okay. So now that we understand that all insurance policies cover the same thing, can you tell me any other policies that may differ from each other, what the other ways they may differ?
Sure, there's a lot of different ways that a policy can differ, but especially here down in Harris County and the coastal counties that we're in, you'll see some policies that include windstorm coverage and some of them that don't. Here at Tucker Insurance, we do actually have a lot of carriers now that are opening up windstorm coverage in your coastal counties, and we've been able to save people a lot of money by combining those two instead of having one separate. Then you'll also, want to look at your optional endorsements. Some companies offer different endorsements that you can add, like refrigerated property if the power goes out, or having foundation coverage for leaks under the foundation. One company may offer those coverages, and another company might not even have them available. So your agent can help walk you through that.
Now, you talked about windstorm, and can you tell me or kind of give us an idea of how it's determined whether or not I have windstorm?
Sure. Okay, so the state of Texas calls them Tier 1s, Tier 2, and Tier 3 counties.
Okay.
If your county touches coastal water, you're a Tier 1, and that's where you'll find a lot of companies that exclude the windstorm. If your county is one that touches a Tier 1 county, such as Harris County, then you're considered Tier 2, and they can exclude windstorm, but it's still high risk, so you'll find a lot of companies that will just deny certain areas in those counties. And then Tier 3 is just your regular counties that are not close to coastal, and then they'll all include windstorm automatically.
So if I was living in Lubbock, I would be a Tier 3, I guess.
Correct, yes.
We're talking with Dana Tucker with Tucker's Insurance. The numbers here are 281-837-2222. And we're talking about homeowners insurance. Guys, I will tell you, over the years, you keep seeing your note go up. If you're not monitoring your taxes and insurance, that's why your note's going up. Every year, you need to call your local insurance company and ask them to go over your policy. As Dana said earlier, what happens a lot of times when it comes to insurance is that things have changed in your life. You've had changes. You've done some things. You've added on your house. Let's talk a little bit about riders, because that comes into play too. What are riders, and why is that important?
Riders are usually on...
So say I have a sports memorabilia collection. I've got several diamond rings. Usually your insurance company doesn't cover all those diamond rings.
Right.
They've got limits on them. So I've heard about this word, the riders, being a part of your insurance policy. How does that work?
Anything that's considered a high value item, which is usually going to be like furs, jewelry, and then guns are a very popular item. Yes, okay. They'll have sublimits inside your policy. So even though your policy may say it covers $100,000 in personal property, it may have a limit for only $2,500 in jewelry. So you'll want to schedule those items. You'll list exactly what they appraise at so that it's insured for the full amount that you agreed on, not what the insurance company says. And then you can set a lower deductible on it. So if you've got a $3,000 deductible on your homeowners, you can still have your wedding ring covered 100% if you schedule it on your policy. It waives the deductible.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break with the Real Estate Corner. My guest in the studio is Dana Tucker with Tucker's Insurance. Dana, before we take this break, I'm going to let you give how people can get in touch with you and get this low policy like I've got. I actually called and canceled my policy. I'm like, hey, you got to go. And the lady over at Amica told me, I understand why you canceled. So I would like the number, how they can get in touch with you guys.
Okay, if you would like to call our office, our number is 409-767-8003, and we have quite a few agents that are available to help you.
Hey guys, when you're looking for a title company, I use American Title. American Title is my favorite insurance company. Charlene Clancy and her bunch, Ronna, Eric, they're at 5802 Valverde. That's 5802 Valverde. I got an email one day and said, Chad, why do you give the address out? Because there are lots of American Titles. The one that I use is 5802 Valverde. She does a super job. And when it comes to title insurance, guys, the title policy, most of the fees are pretty much the same. Don't know where you go. The difference is service. And that's what I like about American Title. And her number is 713-784-0006. Tell her you heard it on the Real Estate Corner. If you're buying a house, you're buying family members, buying property, you always get a title policy. And I like to say this all the time. If you're buying a house from Jesus, you need a title policy still. You always got to know what's going on. The numbers again are 713-784-0006. Tell Charlene I asked you to call her and ask her about the title policy. Guys, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back with the Real Estate Corner. Thinking about buying or selling, real estate can be a very complicated process. Finding one, how much can you afford? Get survey, put a home on the market, review the net sheets, taxes, advice on financing, homestead exemptions, advice on insurance, what kind of mortgage, inspections, considering offers, negotiations, submitting an offer, how good are the schools, down payment assistance, title insurance, home warranties, closing costs, final walkthrough. These are the pieces of the puzzle of home ownership. I'm the person who helps put it together and the glue that keeps it together. Give me a call, Shad Bogany. Welcome back to the Real Estate Corner. My name is Shad Bogany. We've got Dana Tucker here in the studio with us, and she's with Tucker Insurance, TWFG. Dana, you know, when we're sitting down and we're getting our notes together and we're reading all this and we're looking from a distance, we sometimes look at things. So Dana wanted to make a correction. She tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, I got a correction I make because I want to make sure that everybody understands this, because you got all these different policies. And I know even when I'm looking at contracts, I don't remember everything on every line. So Dana, what was the correction you wanted to make for me?
I appreciate that. On an HO3, it was actually 16 perils that are covered, not 11. And the most comprehensive coverage policy is going to be an HO5, not an HO6.
Okay. And so, guys, it happens. And so I'm glad she corrected it. And so I don't get any of your emails out there. Numbers again, 281-837-2222. We've got Eddie online. Hey, Eddie, how are you? Depending on what it is, when you buy a home in the state of Texas, you do what we call a seller's disclosure. And the seller disclosure is supposed to say what any repairs the seller has done over a period of time on the home and any repairs that they've done over that period of time. If the seller, even if you bought the house as is, a seller has an obligation to tell you what's wrong with the house if they know it. So tell me what your issue was, Eddie. They should have disclosed that to you. That should have been something of a disclosure. Now, what concerns me is that the statute of limitations there have run a little bit, but you might want to talk with your local attorney, and I would suggest a real estate attorney, somebody who specializes in real estate, and talk to them and get kind of an idea about the statute of limitation. But yes, that if the house had had a fire, and even though they redid it, they still should have disclosed it. Just as the house flooded and they redid it and made it look brand new, they still should disclose that to you as a consumer. Yeah, I can recommend an attorney because that's really what you need. My number is 713-667-1000. All righty. Thank you, Eddie, for the call. And we missed the call. I had an insurance question for Dana. I hope you'll call back. The number's again, 281-837-2222. We've got, let me go to our next question that we have here on that side. And if a homeowner policy includes windstorm, does it mean that any separate policies, that it doesn't need any separate policies to protect those homes, Dana?
There's lots of other policies that you might want to consider. Of course, flood insurance will be required if they're in a flood zone, but I would always suggest you to purchase flood insurance even if you're not in a high-risk zone. I think we saw after Harvey that there was lots of flood damage in X-rated zones, so regardless of what your mortgage company's telling you about whether or not it's required, I would always look into flood coverage. If you're not in a high-risk zone, it's super inexpensive, so yeah, I would recommend every property to have it. And then there's also an umbrella policy. When you become a homeowner, it opens you up for liability exposures. You know, we live in a world where everybody's sue happy, and the first thing that they'll go for is garnishing your wages and putting a lien on your home. If you put an umbrella policy bundled with your own home and your auto, then that can help protect you from that.
So before we leave, well, I'll come back to the bundling, but my question to you, would you explain to the people who are listening, driving home, on their way down to Beaumont, on their way to Baytown, sitting in 610 traffic right now, would you explain the difference between rising water and water coming in?
Sure, yeah, there's always a confusing question
Right.
for some reason. Rising water is going to be anything that rises up. So basically it touched the ground first and then it came up.
Okay.
And that's what flood is for. Flood is going to cover your rising water. Anything else is usually considered wind-driven rain or just rain. And that's going to fall under just your regular homeowners policy. So if the rain's coming down, it's going to be covered by your homeowners or your windstorm. And if it's coming up, it's going to be covered by your flood insurance.
What type of deductible do you normally recommend to your clients?
Pretty much as low as they can afford and that the company will offer.
Okay.
So it totally depends. Like flood insurance will have preset amounts. Pretty much the standard is your deductible is going to be $1,250.
Okay.
Homeowners, depending on what county you're in, like if you're in one of the tier 1 counties we were talking about, the lowest windstorm deductible you might be able to get is a 2%, just depending on what company you're going through. But as you get into tier 3, you'll see $500 deductibles as an option. And if the premium fits within your budget, then that just helps you out later if you have a loss. So as low as you can get it.
Well, I was talking to someone the other day who sits on a flood presidential PAG, and they were telling me in Texas there are over 682,000 flood insurance policies.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't realize that it was that many. Now, the funny thing is that everybody seems to believe that flood insurance is along the coast, but the city of Abilene, half of it is in a flood zone.
Right.
Yeah, and so how do you feel that people seem to be confused about the flood policy from a point where they get some of them will get the minimum, but they never get content coverage? What's your thoughts on that? And do you recommend content? Because that wall will dry out.
Right.
But the furniture and electronics and all that stuff is gone. So what's your take on getting content coverage, and what do you normally recommend?
I have never written a flood policy that did not include contents coverage.
See,
So
that's
if
what
you
tells
have-
me you're a good agent, because there are a lot of policies that are being written right now without content coverage, and I see them all the time.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't like to talk bad about other agents, but if your policy doesn't have contents coverage, I'd consider getting a new agent, because
Okay.
it's usually not but maybe $50 more to add contents coverage.
Okay.
So if you're going to be insuring your home from flood, you want to insure your stuff too, because it all adds up very quickly.
Okay. Let me ask you this question, and we're kind of all over the way, but that's just how we do this show. What happens when I can't get a homeowner's policy and I go in, because let me tell you, there's usually when the big box companies, I'm going to give them some, I've already given the names out, so I'm going to give them some rest now. No more publicity. But when they don't write anymore and they says, oh, we're not writing anywhere, but that agent that works for those big box insurance companies only can write for their company. They typically, because they still want that business,
Right.
they put you in some sort of group insurance. I can't think of the name of it right now. It's sort of like when you can't get insurance any other place, you go to this group.
Kind of like TWIA, like Texas Windstorm.
Right. It's what is it called? I can't think of the name of it, but it's a group when you can't get insurance anywhere else. You go to
Surplus
this.
lines?
It may be a surplus line, and but you can't get any other sort of insurance. And what I found, because that agent still wants that business, he puts you over in that insurance, where if he went to an independent agent, you're going to be shopping around looking for that policy.
Right, yeah. I came from a big box agency, and we had a lot of areas that they would just completely decline. They did not want to write in those counties whatsoever. And we would place them with Texas Fair Plan because that was the only option that we had. But those policies don't offer the same optional coverages that a regular HO3 or HOB would offer. So I highly recommend looking for other options. It's last case scenario.
All right. I'm going to remember what they called that, and they may have changed the name. So many names have changed. Like, like I say, used to use HOB all the time, and now they've called it something else. We've got a caller on line 1. Let's see if we can get this caller in. Hello, you on the air? What's the difference between FHA and VA? Are you a veteran? Then you should go with a VA loan. That is the best loan for you to go with. If everybody should want a VA loan if they could get it. It is no money down on the VA loan. Your funding fee is sort of like MIP, mortgage insurance, but the VA loan is your best loan to go to. If somebody's trying to sell you an FHA loan and you are a veteran, you should not do that. Even if you're buying a very expensive home, you should take that up as high as VA will go, then you switch over to that end. Every loan officer that I've ever talked to said the VA loan is the best loan, and all the research I've done, it says it's the best loan for you. Yeah, you need your DD-214, and what I would suggest you do, if you give me a call off the air, I'll put you in touch with a lender who can pre-approve you and get you going. The VA loan is a little different. Some things they look for, sometimes the debt to income back ratios are different. There's also the Texas Veteran Land Board program that you see a lot in some of the rural areas, where they basically give you a lower interest rate than you can normally get with a regular VA loan. But the difference is that they require you to put 5% down. And so what I'm going to suggest you do is give me a call. I'd love to sit down and talk with you. And thank you so much for listening. So, guys, we've talked about insurance, we've talked about flood insurance, we talked about rising water coming in. Let's talk about liability coverages. A lot of times people don't look at the liability side of the policy. Let's explain to us what a liability policy covers, and if you could for us, Dana, what does it really cover?
Liability, basically, what we were talking about a little bit, it protects you from lawsuits. I really feel like that can be one of the most important coverages on a homeowner's policy. You see so many people getting sued. It's ridiculous. You have your kids' friends over for the weekend, and one of the kids trips or falls off the trampoline, and then the next thing you have is a lawsuit. And if you don't have cash to pay for that, and you don't have liability insurance, then they will put a lien on your home and garnish your wages. So that basically protects the things that you already have, your cars and your income and your properties. It makes sure that they can't be taken from you.
How do you determine what your limits are going to be? So if you looked at a rider, or the coverage page or declaration page.
Yeah, deck page.
Okay. How do you determine what your limits are going to be? Do you recommend limits, or is it based on how much money you want to spend?
No, I usually don't recommend anyone to have less than $300,000.
Okay.
Just because that's $100,000 is the lowest that you can actually get on a policy. But I do see those limits maxed out very often. So I usually suggest someone to start it at least $300,000, and then it'll just depend on their personal factors. Like if they have teenage drivers, then I'll accept or recommend higher liability limits on their auto insurance. If they have a pool in the backyard, then I'll suggest higher liability limits on their homeowners insurance.
Same as if they had a trampoline in the backyard.
Especially a trampoline also.
Okay.
So it just depends on I'll start at $300,000 and then look at their personal factors and decide if they should have more.
Okay.
Somebody that has a bunch of properties, rental properties, where, a lawsuit could get out of hand and they could lose a lot, they have more to lose, I'll suggest them to have the maximum liability limits and add an umbrella on top of that.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. Many years ago, I had someone who called me and told me they had their lawnmower and their lawn equipment in their back of their truck, and they had parked somewhere and somebody came and took it. And I because I had done a show on insurance, and I said, your homeowner's insurance should cover that. Is this still covering that?
Yes.
And what part of the policy is that called?
That's still going to be your personal property, your contents.
Okay.
Whether it's on your home's property or it's off-site, it's still going to be covered either way. So same thing happens like when someone's car gets broken into and their laptop gets stolen out of the back seat. That would be your homeowners as well.
That would be your homeowners. That would not be your car insurance.
Correct. Your car insurance is just going to insure the vehicle itself. Any of your personal property would fall under your homeowners or your renters, whatever's insuring your contents. And a lot of times they'll have limits for not being on the actual property. So if you have $100,000 in contents coverage on your property, you have $10,000 while you're traveling.
Okay. Now, my other question in regards to insurance is that the limits that you recommend, are these just standard limits or that you guys recommend based on your experience in that end? Because what I've found with auto insurance or any of these insurance, if you pay $10 more, you get $20,000 more in policy. Is it the same way with homeowners?
Oh yes, you can a lot of times increase it from $100,000 to $300,000 for like $10 more a year.
Okay.
Super inexpensive to go up to the next limit, but saves you a lot of money if you actually have a claim.
Okay. Let's talk about guaranteed replacement. So I just bought a house, and I'm sure you get this question. Tucker Insurance, TWFG, I just paid $200,000 for this house, and I got a hell of a deal. It's 3,000 square feet. You come in and says, well, Shad, you may have gotten a great deal, but this house is worth more than $200,000. So how do you determine what you're going to pay on that good deal? And is it guaranteed replacement, or I've got to get whatever you think the house is to rebuild? Explain that to us a little bit.
Basically, each carrier that we work with, and all the carriers out there, they're going to have their own system that they use to calculate what it would cost to replace your home. So your insurance is not insuring what it's worth or what you paid for it. It's insuring what it would cost to rebuild it brand new. If, let's say, a fire took the whole thing down and you had to start over from scratch, they want to know exactly what it would cost in today's market to build a new one. So usually it has a lot to do with the square footage of the home, the materials, whether it's brick or vinyl siding, and what type of roof it has. So they'll take all those characteristics of your home, and then they'll come up with a dollar amount per square footage. Usually comes out to be $100 per square foot on average. So if you've got a 3,000 square foot home, we're going to suggest you have it insured for at least $300,000.
Okay, all right. We had a call here offline. Kathy wanted to know, do you have to pay for an independent agent?
No.
Okay, all right, great question, because I'm sure some other people thought the same thing. It's just like you're shopping around for an agent, so you interview them, but an independent agent, once again, has an array of products where if I'm in a big box company, I can only sell what that big box company.
Yeah, independent agents make commission the same way a captive agent does. We get paid a percentage off of what we sell, but we don't get paid any differently than, like I said, a captive does. The difference is if you're a captive, you only work with that one company and you're trying to make everyone fit into that one box. When you're an independent agent, you can work for your customers more than the actual insurance carrier themselves. You get to learn your products and find which product actually fits your customer instead of making your customer fit the company.
Okay. The numbers here again are 281-837-2222. You're listening to the Real Estate Corner. We're here every Tuesday talking real estate from 6:15 to 7:15. If you are viewing this on Iconic TV, welcome to the show, and I thank you for being here. If you're looking for a hardware store, you need to call Dixie Hardware. It's a great hardware store. It's right there at Cullen and OST. They've got lawn equipment, plumbing equipment, cutting keys, making glass, paint. They've got everything at Dixie Hardware. And the thing that makes me really jump up and down when I walk into Dixie Hardware, the first thing when you walk in the door, welcome to Dixie Hardware, can I help you? And when you go in those box stores, you ever had anybody asking you to help them? No. They don't do it, but they do it at Dixie Hardware. Right there at Cullen and OST. And they've got sales all the time, so you might want to pick up one of their sales papers or go to www.dixiehardware.com and look at what sales they've got going on there at this particular time. So let's talk a little bit about renter's insurance. With renter's insurance, what is the normal cost of renter's insurance? How does that work?
Renter's insurance can be very inexpensive. I've seen them as low as $6 a month. And as high as maybe 50 or 60, just depending on how much stuff you have to insure and where your property's located. But it's very inexpensive most of the time.
Okay. And so can I get renter's insurance for flood, or is that a different policy, or is it the same policy?
It's going to apply just like a homeowner's. You would have a renter's policy, and then you would have a separate flood renter's policy.
Okay.
Just for your contents.
Have you found apartment dwellers looking for flood insurance and since Harvey?
Yes, Harvey has changed pretty much everyone's opinions on flood insurance.
Okay.
I think they said 80% of the people that had a loss at Harvey weren't insured with flood insurance. And so we had a huge influx of people looking for it right after the storm and here lately with the weather.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit of how to get my insurance policy down.
Okay.
You touched on it very briefly, Dana, about bundling. What is that all about?
Bundling basically just means that you have your policies either within the same carrier or the same agency.
Okay.
So even though we're an independent, so we may not place your auto with the same company that we place your home,
right,
but we can still give you discounts for having your policies within the same agency.
Okay. So you get discount. What's another way to get my discounts with my homeowner's insurance?
There's lots of things that are more specific to the actual home. So maybe
Okay.
when you're home shopping, you want to pay attention to certain things. Like the age of your home is a huge factor, like we talked about.
Okay.
So if you're comparing two properties, just keep in mind that the one that's the newest is going to have the best insurance rate.
Best insurance. What about cameras? Does that do it? Fire? Does that do it?
If you have a burglar alarm that reports or
Okay.
fire alarm that reports, that's a big discount.
Okay.
So it's something to consider.
What about cameras? Because cameras have gotten really popular and very inexpensive to put in.
Cameras are very popular, and
Cameras.
I would suggest them to help with your claims.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you have the camera doesn't give you a more discount than just having the alarm.
Okay, so even though I can catch the crook and see him, I can get me more deal.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit in regards to how to have a claim, how to handle a claim. Maybe that's a better word, how to handle a claim on insurance. What's the best way to do that?
Very first thing I would suggest is to call your agent. Your agent should be your liaison between the insurance company. They're going to best help you understand which coverage on your policy applies, whether or not there's a deductible. And then usually when my customers call in for a claim, the very first thing I do is ask them to get an estimate. You don't want to file claims that are under your deductible because they'll cause your rates to go up by being as a claim on your history. But you want to make sure it's actually going to be paid basically before you report it. So reach out to your agent and they can help advise you.
All right. What about keeping records? Now with cameras on your phone and photos, do you recommend people to take pictures of their valuables?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
I would take pictures of your valuables before something happens to them. It just speeds up the process as far as proving that you actually owned the item. And then if you do have a claim, one of the first things you should do is document the damage, because it'll be up to you to prove to the company you've had a loss, that not for them to come prove that it happened. So if you can document it, it can help just speed that process along and make it a little bit more pleasant for everybody.
Okay. You're listening to the Real Estate Corner. I'm your host, Shad Bogany. We're here in the studio with Dana talking about what's going on with homeowners insurance. Her company is named Tucker Insurance, TWFG. The phone number for their office is 409-767-8003. That's 409-767-8003. And I couldn't do any bigger endorsement. Tell them that's who my homeowners insurance is with. And they saved me so much money. And I'm like, that's why I wanted to have them come on the show. So you could call them, give them a call, see if they can save you some money. And we're going to take a 10-second station break, and we'll be right back with the Real Estate Corner. thinking about buying or selling, real estate can be a very complicated process. Finding one, how much can you afford? Get survey, put a home on the market, review the net sheets, taxes, advice on financing, homestead exemptions, advice on insurance, what kind of mortgage, inspections, considering offers, negotiations, submitting an offer, how good are the schools, down payment assistance, title insurance, home warranties, closing costs, final walkthrough. These are the pieces of the puzzle of home ownership. I'm the person who helps put it together and the glue that keeps it together. Give me a call, Shad Bogany. Give the phone numbers out again, 281-837-2222. I'm in the studio this evening and I'm talking with Dana Tucker. Her company is called the Tucker Insurance, and that's TWFG. And they're here to give you some insight of what's going on in homeowners insurance. I have a scenario for you, Dana. So my house burns down, my car's in the garage. Who pays for the car?
It depends on how you have your policy set up. If they're with different companies, then you would have a homeowner's claim and a auto claim. So you would have two separate claims you needed to file. Now there are carriers out there, like Encompass is one of the companies that we represent. If you bundle them together and they're in one policy, and you have let's say a fire or even a hurricane comes through and damages both cars in the driveway and the house, then that company does offer a single deductible. So some companies will give you that option, but with most companies you're going to be two different claims and two different deductibles.
Okay. Now I got another scenario for you. So we're in scenario mode now.
Okay.
Say that my neighbor's tree falls on my fence, or my tree falls on my neighbor's fence and house, or his car, like those commercials we show. So how is it claimed?
I actually get this question all the time.
Okay.
It's a very common question. And the answer is it totally depends on why the tree fell.
Okay.
If the tree fell because there was a tornado or a hurricane, then whoever's home has the damage is the one that their insurance is going to pay for it. So it doesn't matter if my tree fell on your house, your homeowners is going to pay for it.
Okay.
Now, if the tree fell because I was negligent and the tree has been rotting out here for 6 months and I didn't do anything about it, then I'm negligent, and then you could file the claim on my homeowners.
Okay.
So like I said, it all depends on why the tree fell.
Guys, this is where we try to bring you this inside information. We've got Dana in the studio. I know you guys got some insurance questions. The number's again 281-837-2222. My name is Shad Bogany. If this is the first time you've listened this show or viewed this show on Iconic TV, we're here every Tuesday from 6:15 to 7:15, and then we come in your home Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday night at 8 p.m. You can also catch our show. If you missed one of our shows, you didn't hear it, everything that you thought you might have heard, you said, I wish Shad would repeat that show. You can go to YouTube and look up the Real Estate Corner TV show, and you can catch our shows. Once again, if you're looking to buy or sell, you should not make a decision without calling me, Shad Bogany, and let the Shad Bogany team come help you. The numbers again are 713-828-6075. So we've been throwing out scenarios. We've been talking. Talk a little bit about the depreciation. I've had elderly seniors call me, and they've gotten these policies where everything is depreciated. What type of policy is that, and and what should they do to avoid that policy?
Well, that goes back to those different policy forms we were talking about earlier. The HOAs that I strongly stay away from.
Okay.
They pay out on ACV, actual cash value.
Okay.
So it's basically going to take the value of your item and subtract the depreciation based on how old it is, and they're going to pay you what they think it's actually worth, not what it costs to replace. If you go up to the HOB or HO3, then the structure itself is going to automatically have replacement costs. And then you can add an endorsement to your homeowners to make sure your contents also have replacement costs. And I always include that on my policies. It makes a huge difference when you have a claim. If you have a damage to your roof, it can make a difference between getting a $600 check from the insurance company or a $6,000 check. So it makes a huge difference.
Okay. We're talking with Dana Tucker. She's with the Tucker Insurance, TWFG, and she's here in the studio with us, giving us some insight of what's going on in insurance. So, Dana, I've asked you all the questions I could think of, and I'm sure my mind just kind of goes all over the place, and I'll come up with another question. But you've got some that you've written down that I may not have asked. Let's go through some of those and give us some insight.
So one of the things I kind of wanted to circle back to were the things you could do to make your rate lower. We talked about the age of the home when you're buying it, but there are some other things you can do actually updating the home that you already own.
So if you update the home and let you know that your home has been updated, they don't have those 1980 appliances in there, they actually got 2016 appliances.
Yes, that can make a big difference in the RICS. So if you've updated your AC system, your roof, if you've updated the plumbing or the electrical systems, those will make huge differences on how big of a risk it is, so that can affect your rate. So if you do make those updates, make sure you let your agent know. We talked about installing an alarm, storm shutters. There's very few houses that actually carry these, but those can give you a big discount on your home too. So if you're in a bad coastal zone or windstorm zone, look at getting some storm shutters, and that can actually affect your rates also.
Okay.
And then you can also have the certifications on your home. Like when you get a new roof put on, make sure an engineer comes out and certifies it so that you have the certifications filed with the state. Those will give you discounts for some companies, and they will, if you don't have them, they'll actually disqualify you from some companies. So having those will give you better rates on just in general.
Okay. Anything else?
When you're shopping for a new property, you could pay attention to how close it is located to the nearest fire department or fire hydrant. That can make a big difference.
Well, I've got a fire hydrant in front of my house. Does that mean I need to get that and tell you guys about it?
Oh, it'll automatically pull all that.
Okay.
When we put the address in, they've got all the fire departments report to the insurance industry companies, so it pulls all that. But just something to keep in mind when you're shopping for a property.
All right, Dana, we've got a question on Mr. Johnson on line one. Let's go ahead. Mr. Johnson, how are you? All right. That's what the name of it was, the fair plan. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I couldn't remember. I was having a super senior moment, and it's the fair plan. That's the plan I was talking about. So you're in the fair... Right, exactly. So you're in the fair plan right now. Okay, I tell you what, this is what I'd like for you to do. Leave your number with my producer, Jermaine, and Jermaine has written down Tucker's Insurance, TWFG, and then he can text that to you, their phone number. How about that? The Tucker Insurance number is 409-767-8003. That's 409-767-8003. Guys, I'm telling you, I had a closing the other day with these guys, and the title company called me and says, "Is this insurance right?" Couldn't be. Could not be. And it was. So you need to give these guys a call. Like I said, I was so thrilled. I could at least have them on the show because it saved me so much money. So the number again, 409-767-8003. And Mr. Johnson, Jermaine will text you that number, and you can give the Tucker Insurance a call. The fair plan was what I was trying to remember. And these big box insurance companies always put people in the fair plan. So, for example, they stopped writing in Harris County.
Right.
So when you call them, they still want the business, so they put you in the fair plan. As Mr. Johnson just said, it's a watered down insurance.
Yeah.
So how do you guys deal with the fair plans?
I have a fair plan, and I just don't write it.
You just don't write it.
Yes.
So if you're with one of these big box insurance companies, here's somebody who just won't write it because it really ain't fair. It's really not a fair plan.
Right. When you go to actually write a fair plan policy, you actually have to turn in at least 3 declinations showing that you went to 3 standard carriers and they would not write it. So you have to have declinations to write it. It's basically just a program that's there for the ones that can't get insurance through regular companies. but I always have a better option.
Okay. Couple of questions that I wanted to cover. How important is credit in getting insurance?
It's definitely changing the industry right now. It used to have no part in insurance whatsoever. Now, I'd say we have 100 insurance companies that we go through, and probably 50 of them base their rate off of your credit score, or your insurance score is really what it's called. Your insurance score will be determined by partially your insurance experience, how often you switch companies, if you've had lapses, how long you've been insured, and then a good portion of it also comes from your credit history.
Okay, let me ask you a question. And could you explain to my listening audience and my viewing audience about the Clue Report?
Clue reports basically track everything that you've ever filed on any of your policies, any claims you've ever filed.
Even if they didn't pay you, it
Yes.
still tracks it.
Yeah, even if they didn't pay, I actually was working on one today that had 3 zero paid claims, and I was getting rejections through companies because of the 3 claims. So that's why I said earlier that I always suggest reach out to your agent first, go get your estimate, and make sure that the claim's even going to be over your deductible before you go file it.
So I will tell you, call Dana, call your insurance agent first before you call the insurance company, because the Clue Report records. Even though you didn't get paid, you didn't make a claim, I'll just handle it myself, it still puts it on your report. And she just gave you an example. And these are the sort of things that we try to bring to you here on the Real Estate Corner, because most of you don't even know it's a Clue Report out there. You called to just say, hey, there's a branch in my yard that fell down, is that gonna, and it goes on the Clue Report.
Right.
Okay. Numbers again, 281-837-2222. And guys, we're just about out of time. I want to thank Tucker Insurance, TWFG, for coming in the studio. They came through some storm rain, came down I-10. I know how I-10 is when it's dry, so I can't imagine driving down in the rain. Guys, I really appreciate you coming in. And I do have Mr. Johnson's number here, so I'll give that to you. But guys, I really do appreciate you coming in today, talking with us. My name is Shad Boggin, and we're here every Tuesday from 6:15 to 7:15. And I want to thank Dana Tucker and the Tucker Insurance TWFG for coming in my studio tonight, talking insurance. Guys, we will see you next week. I am working on having somebody come in and talk about the new flood policy with the city of Houston. There are a lot of changes going on. And I'm going to tell you, did you know that the new policy requires you to lift your air conditioning up if you're in a 100-year floodplain, at least 2 feet up? So things are changing in insurance. We're going to be talking with a realtor who's actually very involved with it. And I just want to let you know we're going to have a great show next week also. My name is Shad Boggany. My producer is Jermaine Freeman. See you next week on the Real Estate Corner. Thinking about buying or selling, real estate can be a very complicated process. Finding one, how much can you afford? Get survey, put a home on the market, review the net sheets, taxes, advice on financing, homestead exemptions, advice on insurance, what kind of mortgage, inspections, considering offers, negotiations, submitting an offer, how good are the schools, down payment assistance, title insurance, home warranties, closing costs, final walkthrough. These are the pieces of the puzzle of home ownership. I'm the person who helps put it together and the glue that keeps it together. Give me a call, Shad Boggany.